All right, welcome back to 3MFAers. I'm Caleb John Cushing. I'm an actor, writer, filmmaker. Joining me today are the two loveliest co-hosts in the entire world.
Hi, I'm Brandon McPherson. I'm also an actor. I have an MFA from the Actor Studio Drama School, and I'm from Toronto, and I'm currently in isolation. Also here with our other co-host,
Joshua Stir, in the flesh, online. Joshua Stir here. You guys all know, director, actor, video game extraordinaire. And yeah, just hanging out with my two buddies on a Saturday morning. Gonna talk movies and special events. Can't wait.
Special events?
Beautiful
right.
Saturday morning in ISO.
I didn't know we had special events going on. I'm excited.
Well, news. You know.
Yeah, fill us in. What special events have been happening for you in your life?
I have been dealing with putting up drywall and spackling and painting. We're painting
Nice.
a whole, we fixed up a wall in Ryan's room, so now that's taken 2 years to do. That I finally pushed him to do. So we're painting it today and hopefully put the room back together and kind of sync up our synergy in the room. You know what I mean?
Nice.
It's kind of stressing me out
Mhm.
a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's kind of been it. I haven't, before Caleb, you ask, I haven't really played Final Fantasy VII. Although I did get caught in the mansion. I did get to Cloud's hometown, and the safe boss threw me off a whack. That's not, threw me for a loop because I didn't realize the physical and magical damage, and then he whichever one you beat him most with at the beginning, he becomes super resistant against. So that kind of sucked. So I died, and then I had to, go back to the canyon, which Ryan's you can save in the map world, and I was like, oh yeah, that would work next time. So I have that, but I've also caught up on Rick and Morty. I'm all the way through. And are you guys up to season 4, or Brandon, have you watched it?
I've seen the first 5. I just haven't seen the newest 2 episodes.
Okay,
So
but
I've seen
you
the first.
Yeah, and there's a new one tonight.
Yeah, I've seen the first 5 episodes of season 4, and I've seen every other episode. Just
so
not the last 2.
Cool. I think it's great. We just watched the one with I forget who cares. But my 2 favorite ones, top 2 right now, are the dragon one, the slut dragon, and
yeah.
and
I don't know why slut dragon
Pickle Rick was one of my favorite episodes.
Fantastic.
Oh, Pickle Rick is the biggest meme. That's
Right.
the one that when people complain about Rick and Morty fans, they mimic people quoting that episode as being really annoying. Which it is. It's pretty annoying, but it's supposed to be. So that's why.
Oh no, the
last
one I watched was the meta one. They were super meta. Okay, Brandon, you'll watch this later.
Yeah, well, Brandon hasn't seen that one yet.
Oh, okay. I was gonna.
It's very Caleb. It reminded me of Caleb's writing. Caleb could easily write that episode.
Yeah, it's definitely. We won't talk about the latest 2, so that Brandon can go in with more or less kind of open, whatever. They're good. I think they're both good.
I'm stoked for them.
I would say my favorites are the episode that really got me into it in season 1. Was halfway through with the Cronenbergs, the love potion, and they keep fucking up and making it worse, and they go to the alternate reality and they bury their other selves. I was like, okay, this is a different kind of
thing. And then
thing.
that leads to one of the best moments in the entire show when Morty turns to Summer, who's freaking out, and he's like, "Look outside. Do you see those mounds over there? That's my body that I buried myself. Nobody belongs anywhere.
Yeah.
Nothing's important.
Nothing matters. Come watch
Come
TV.
downstairs and watch TV.
I love that. I love the episode with I wish I could remember their names. I'm usually better at remembering episode names. But it's the one with they're dream parasites, and they have all the characters and trying to remember who's real and who's not. It's the one with Mr. Poopy
when
Butthole.
you first meet Mr. Poopy Butthole.
Yeah. They said there's the parasite that said something is out of but they put memories in your head, so you're all part of the memories.
Yeah. And it's just so fucking ridiculous. And then, I just love Jerry. I think Chris Parnell's great.
The best part of that episode
and he's like, I'm a parasite. And she's like, I know, Jerry.
And Jerry's not married to what's her name? His boyfriend is, right? Or no, it's supposed to be their... What's happening?
No, he was in love with
that,
like Rick,
Jerry's
like a
brother.
stupid Rick, right? Or was that?
No, it's not a Rick. It's like another.
No, he
it's
fell
another
in
It's another
love
dude.
with Sleepy Gary.
But is Sleepy Gary Beth's husband during this now? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah,
like
yeah. And but then it's like they do like a Brokeback Mountain kind of thing. Yeah.
But they do it all about like seeing Star Wars and
There was one that was
Yeah. I love that shit.
My favorite episode was the at first it was definitely the one with it's Rick versus the Devil. That's my favorite episode for sure.
Oh, that one's great.
Yeah.
That one's really good too, with Alfred Molina.
Yeah. And then most recently was the heist one, where they're just making fun of heist movies.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
I feel like that one's probably might be my least favorite out of like the newer ones.
Just because
to me it feels like I wasn't like watching the show. I was just like listening to Dan Harmon's opinion about heist movies.
Yeah.
Like I heard like his like, you know what I mean? And that bothered me. It doesn't seem to like bother. I mean, like Son of a Bitch I'm In is like funny for sure. And I like Justin Theroux's performance. He's really great as like the fucking other
the
guy.
Whatever head stealer.
But I don't know, like compared to like Slut Dragon or like any of this other, with like Matthew Broderick is like, hey, you want to go to Florida?
Death Crystal?
Yes.
Crystal?
Yeah.
Oh my god, the Nazi, like everything's like fascist. Is that the?
Yeah.
And like, and then my favorite moment was when he's like a teddy bear, and like he just comes out and he says a line, and he's like, oh god, he just smashes his head into the glass just to kill himself. Was probably one of the funniest moments. I think for me, like the words and the dialogue, whatever I have to listen to, I gotta find it witty or funny, but it's the quick action, right? It's that moment of like, oh god, react. And I'm dead. I'm on the floor.
Yeah, the animators deserve a lot of credit for like making like the physical comedy really fun.
Exactly.
It's interesting you say that. I was watching the Community podcast that they did the other day, the reunion.
Yeah.
And Dan Harmon was talking about how at the time he just didn't know any better on Community, and they'd be doing things budget wise that just made no sense and were so big that now doing Rick and Morty, the animators would be like, you can't do that. But for Community, he just didn't know any better. So be like, no, that's what we're doing. We're going to make a fake spaceship that's a car today. And, just like random shit. Like, we're doing paintball.
Yeah.
My favorite moment.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I said another one of my favorite moments is like, so Ryan has a very critical eye with entertainment and like TV shows and stuff. And so I've started watching Gotham, and I'm on season 2 right now. But Ryan will, like, the first few episodes I was watching, like, I have it on in the background while I'm playing, I'm on the computer or whatever. Like, I'm not actually, like, sitting watching it, right? But I figured I'd owe it to myself to at least see what the show is, since I like Flash and Arrow and, Supergirl and stuff like that. But
I enjoyed Gotham. I thought it was great.
I've been told that the last few seasons are spectacular, but you have to build to it, right? And so I'm sitting there, and he just kind of huffs, right? He's like, oh, let me see. It's like another one of those crime dramas, just with the skin of Batman over it. Let me guess. Penguin is trying to work his way up or whatever. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, but I don't see how you can watch this. And I said, well, I don't, really see the point of like argument. Like, it's not trying to be anything that it's not. Like, I don't get your argument here. It's not trying to challenge you. It's on Fox. It's a network television TV show. Obviously it's going to have this like very stylistic kind of corny thing to it. Yeah. I'm still going to like watch it. Anyway, so we were watching Rick and Morty, and there was the Vindicators episode, and Vindicators 3.
Oh, it's so
where
funny.
Morty's just like, it's something about taste. Morty's like getting mad at Rick for like overanalyzing and just hating it. And I'm just like, babe, that's I'm Morty and you're Rick. You're totally Rick right now. You're just overanalyzing things and just, you don't like it because it's not challenging, because nothing means anything anymore. There's nothing original. And it was just so funny because he said something about like, yeah, because you have no taste. I'm going to get a drink. I'm like, babe, that's literally our conversation we just had over Gotham. It was really funny.
I mean, I think there is something to be said about like those kinds of TV shows sort of like, how do I want to phrase this? It kind of feels sometimes that they're like tricking the audience by presenting themselves they're not committing to one or the other, right? They're like, it's prestige television, but it's about like superheroes, but it's good. It's like dark, like fucked up superheroes. And it's like, no, it's like better. It's like when people were like, Game of Thrones is fantasy for people who don't like fantasy, which is like completely wrong, right? It feels like it's the same idea where it's like, it's superheroes but it's actually like good because it's a cop procedural. Like they're embarrassed to be like what they are, so they have to pretend to be other things. And that's kind of like my issues with the presentation of it. I think like I fucking love shit like Justice League and Batman animated series and the Avengers and X-Men and all that shit. But like it feels like these like Fox shows are embarrassed about it, so they have to like try to be a fucking gritty, you know what I mean? And it feels kind of disingenuous to me.
So having actually like watched it, and I watched all of it, I can totally see why that is the outward perception, and that actually makes a lot of sense and is very well put about like why it didn't do as well as I thought it should have and things like that. Because you're right, it does seem that way. When you watch it, it seems like it's come from a different perspective. It seems like it's come from a perspective of like, oh, we wanted to do a cop show with a strong cop lead. There's 9 million of them. How do we make it entertaining? Mm-hmm. They wanted us to do a Batman show. Fuck it. Let's do this kid, and like we'll make him a kid and we'll do it that way. And we'll go from there and see where it goes. And there's like a big... The first season, the first couple episodes, little rough. And I'm a big fan of the main guy. You know?
He's great.
He really finds it as Jim Gordon. Like, he finds his spot in it for sure. The kid starts killing it as young Bruce Wayne. And the other guys that you've put into place to be like your carryover bad guys come out of nowhere. Like the kid who played the Penguin blew up. He became the show, you know?
Yeah, he was on Walking Dead for a
so it's shit like that. And so the show from inside out is well done, in my opinion. It comes from a place that it's switched around from that outside perspective.
Well, what I find interesting is like Ryan sarcastically gave the pitch, let's say. He's like, it just seems like people went into the studio and was like, hey, I'm thinking like there's this period of Batman we don't, we always get the death of his parents and then he's Batman. Like what happens like right afterwards immediately? And what if Jim Gordon, we have him as the lead character and he kind of goes into this? And I'm sitting here going, yeah, I guarantee that's exactly what they what they said and what they greenlighted. But, there's moments, because everything he critiques about the show, it's like, what show have you loved? I'm sure there's a few out there. I mean, I know I can be proven wrong, but a lot of these shows that you start to love, first few episodes, it's really hard to like start a show. You know what I mean? Like it's especially something like this. For like sure. I didn't really fall in love with like the CW shows until they started really doing the crossovers, and I watched them all, and I started to love these characters, and I'm invested in the story. Yeah. Now, am I fully captivated? Some moments, but usually I'm on my phone or I just have it because we have seen all of this before. We have seen these stories. It's very easily predictable. Like, I think some things in season 1 of Gotham is a little corny. Like, I think they're a little bit on the nose too much with the costuming, like making his hair look like a penguin or whatever. And of course, Jim Gordon is the guy that never does anything wrong. He has such strong moral compass that, he literally is just like the good with all the corruptness of Gotham. And yeah, it's completely obvious, but like you have to come to a point where like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me, so I'll continue to watch it. That's what HBO shows are for. Showtime shows,
But I will say HBO proved you can have both with their Watchmen show because it's fucking incredible.
But totally different.
And
totally,
but I'm saying it doesn't have to be.
No, but
it doesn't have to be totally
But
different.
I think that's the difference between like network TV and something like that. I mean, that's 8 episodes, tight, super expensive.
I don't know. Breaking Bad was on network TV.
No, was
fucking amazing. One of the best TV shows ever made.
It was on Stars or whatever, wasn't it? What was
Showtime? No, it was on
AMC.
Oh, AMC, right.
Well, and like The Walking Dead,
right,
the first few episodes,
pretty good things, yeah.
Well, I do remember the first episode of Walking Dead was pretty great, actually.
The first season of Walking Dead is great. Yeah. I will stand by season 1. It was like I was really impressed with like the gore they were able to get on TV. I remember thinking like, this is on fucking AMC.
I was reading the whole thing about the casting process for that, where obviously they were trying to find Rick and whatever John Bernthal's John Bernthal's character first.
Shane.
And so they got John Bernthal.
Why'd you do it, Shane?
Because they had him, going for both. So he, was like, I want to be Shane. They were like, all right. and they cast him. And apparently it was such a bitch trying to find the guy to play Rick, and then they found what's his name, and they were like, "Yep, this is the guy."
Andrew Lincoln.
But apparently,
which is so funny because the only thing I had seen him, I believe that the only thing I had seen him before was fucking Love Actually. So to have like him go from that to like fucking Rick Grimes, like I was
That's
like,
funny.
what? But it worked. He killed it.
Perfect.
He crushed.
I don't know who else you could get. I mean, he's Rick.
Yeah. Before we move on too much, it was cool that we brought up Rick and Morty organically. Justin Roiland, who's the co-creator, he voices both Rick and Morty. He has another show now on Hulu.
Midnight Gospel.
No. It's called Solar Opposites. It's the same vibe. It has the same aesthetic. And it's like very, very funny. It is more aggressive with how it seems like it really like detests its audience. It's very aggressive.
Is that the one
what was
is
that,
the one
Brandon?
that looks exactly like Rick and Morty, but it's like aliens on Earth or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's Aliens on
Yeah.
Earth, and it's Justin Roiland and Thomas Middleditch
Right.
are like the leads, and it's fucking hysterical. If you like Rick and Morty, I think you guys would like this a lot. I was laughing the entire time. It's only 8 episodes. It's just as creative. It's just as irreverent.
Great.
So I don't know. I would check that out if you guys haven't seen it. If you guys can on Hulu.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I don't have Hulu here, so I gotta figure that out. But I didn't realize I was out.
And you'll understand what I mean, Brandon, when you catch up on Rick and Morty. But I feel like there is just like this thing that comes with having such a rabid fan base. They're like annoyed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have like lots of pot shots at people who are like too into the show almost.
No.
And it's a very interesting tone. It's a very interesting line to ride because you wouldn't be where you are in your careers, like creatively, without such a fervent supporting fan base. But at the same time, I had totally like you read like news reports about people like, tearing apart a McDonald's because they run out of fucking promotional special sauce or whatever. It's like embarrassing. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. I
embarrassing
totally
that
get
they
it.
wouldn't order enough Szechuan chicken sauce. I agree.
All right.
It's fucking embarrassing.
Well, it's kind of those things where like
right.
the whole show is based on this premise of like nothing matters. Stop taking it so seriously. But I'm going to take it seriously because I'm a god, or like I earned it, like I'm the smartest person in the universe, multiverse.
Oh my
you know?
God, you're right. First of all, you're 100% right, and you just reminded me, just for 1 second, the best Rick and Morty episode by a wide margin is Rick versus the President. You just reminded me of that. That's my favorite episode, hands down. Period.
Yeah, he's like, well, I'm not leaving until we get
Which
a
one?
selfie. The
Yeah,
selfie
exactly.
one.
Just shoot him.
Oh,
He's not a
the
god.
president.
You don't
I mean,
know what I
Keith-
am. I could be a god.
You don't know what I am.
It's my favorite episode.
Keith David's fucking amazing. Keith David is so fucking
Yeah.
good. Gargoyles, baby. You guys remember Gargoyles?
Oh, yeah.
My brother sent me an article yesterday about how Gargoyles got canceled because of OJ.
Excuse me.
Apparently when Gargoyles... Yeah.
What do you
So
mean?
apparently when Gargoyles premiered, they were killing it, but it's like, TV back in the day, so it wasn't streaming or anything. You have to catch it on TV. And it was crushing, and then the OJ trial happened. And then because
it wasn't like him and his involvement in the show. It just like people were just
the
watching
OJ
the OJ trial.
Yeah. So
That's interesting. I was definitely one of those kids that crawled up the floor as if it was a wall, like a vertical surface with my claws because the gargoyles did that, with their
Mhm.
toes and their fingers.
yeah, classic Spider-Man move.
Yeah, dude.
So I do have some
That's fine.
Raging Bull question.
Are we jumping?
You wanna jump right in?
Yeah, this is my only question about the movie. Everything else seemed very clear and was just based on him getting punched in the head too many times, which I get. I'm not judging. I was a boxer. I totally get it. Saw that CTE coming a mile away. But did she bang all of his friends and his brother or not?
That's such a good question, Brandon. I'm so glad you asked that.
This is a genuine, I'm being 100% serious. This is a genuine question. I did not pick up the answer during this movie.
So I actually, the second time watching it while I was taking my notes, I did stop for a second. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Did she or didn't she? You can look up the answer, and I guess people analyzed it and said, no, there's no proof or anything in the movie
Right.
that says otherwise. And then I did look at it at a lens of like, because of Jake's paranoia, obviously she's going to say it to kind of be like, if because he keeps asking her, right? And she keeps saying no, but he's like insistent. So she's like, yes, I'll just give you the answer that you want. Yeah, I fucked him all. I sucked your brother's dick. It's,
Yeah.
it's so she just says it as a defense mechanism to hopefully diffuse the situation. Obviously, it does not go well for his brother or his ex-wife, but yeah, no, I don't think she did,
Well, and that's the only way that him later apologizing makes sense, right?
Yeah.
To me, it's like very obvious that, because it's interesting that you were bringing up like CTE, Brandon, because like to me, the movie is just such, like thematically, it's just such like an obvious indictment on masculinity, and it's dealing with violence and sexual inferiority and paranoia. And like, I never read Jake LaMotta being the way he is as any sort of like external force, like from whether it be like boxing trauma or, there's a little bit of like his environment, but he just is such an insecure person. That's why he like lashes out with violence. He's always trying to like, oh, do you think she'll fuck me? Like, I gotta fuck her. Like, oh, who are you fucking? Like, there's that scene where like it's like very sensual between them, and she's like kissing his stomach, but he's like, no, like I can't. Like, I gotta just like, rah. Like, so much of it is this weird like internalized inferiority complex that like I totally never read it as her like actually being unfaithful. And like nobody really like betrayed him at all. It's just all in his head, and it's what's causing him to like. That's why he's so violent. That's why he's so aggressive. That's why he like, and he is able to channel that for a long time into being a successful boxer, into being a successful athlete. But yeah, no, I didn't read that she was unfaithful at all. Like, I think that would totally dismantle the themes of the film.
Yeah, and like I totally agree with you guys. I just kept waiting for it to come up again. You know what I mean? For like a one-liner for idiots like me, where he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry that I believed you," or I'm sorry I said that," or just something. You know what I mean? That's what I was waiting for. Just for idiots like me who are going to be like, "Wait, well, hold on a second, what happened?"
Well, the thing that like, if you remember before that though, the thing that made me question it was his asking his brother and his brother dodging the question. Right? Joey's like, "Why would you ask me that? Like, I'm not going to answer that." Him refusing to answer was kind of a tell for me at the moment, saying, "Oh, maybe is he not going to try and get into this?" Because
but if the film is from his perspective, his being Jake's, then like I think Scorsese and De Niro and Paul Schrader, the screenwriter, want you to be thinking that, like, they want you to question as he questions it. But I think that's a totally normal. Like, if you go into Joe Pesci's perspective, who, like, side note, is like fantastic in this movie.
100%.
One of my favorite Joe Pesci performances I've seen, and that's on me for not having seen this before. So
yeah, I totally get it's weird because people are like, especially after The Irishman came out, people are like, he's actually like really good. But like, you go through his track record and he's like got like lots of really like fucking amazing performances. Like, there's like Home Alone and
My
shit,
Cousin Vinny.
Which it's a different kind of movie, and he's good. But yeah, like My Cousin Vinny's fucking hysterical. This movie, he's very, very good. So I just think it's interesting, you know what I mean? And like, obviously, like, it's De Niro and he's De Niro. But I was like, Joe Pesci's like, he's like holding his own against like somebody, just because he's not somebody that comes up in the conversation as much as guys like De Niro, Pacino, whoever. But I was like, the scenes with those two together are like the best in the movie, in my opinion. Like, the boxing scenes are like technically very incredible to watch. But like, in terms of like story and characters, it's like the Pesci De Niro
it's like
shit
it's like
is,
them
what
in
I really
the
connected to in this
kitchen,
movie.
like with the kids and the wives and stuff, and like De Niro's getting mad at him for making a decision of fighting this new guy, because he's his manager. But like, Pesci like holds his own. He's sitting there going, "Yeah, it's a win-win. Let me explain it to you."
Yeah,
you fucking schmuck. Yeah, like I don't know. I can't do it. But yeah.
I did want to say, so you mentioned the CTE thing earlier. So it's not, first of all, just to be clear, this movie definitely, when made, when written, when shot, has nothing to do with CTE. That's not even a thought. That's on nobody's radar. It's not a real thing at that point. It's just interesting now, right? Because I agree with you. It's all about his craziness, his masculinity, him losing his goddamn mind based on his own issues. But you see those issues continually get magnified, which just me watching that now, being aware of brain trauma and CT and all that, you're like, oh, I can just see it getting worse. And it just, I don't know, for me, it just added an extra lens onto this movie.
Yeah.
That was very interesting of like, oh, you're going to get worse while you're getting punched in the head more. Like, this is going to get worse until you're done. And then hopefully it stops getting worse, but it might not.
No, that is like a really interesting layer to put onto it. Like from a contemporary, I mean, this movie's 40 years old.
So I'm well aware that in no way was any of this thought about in the process of making the movie. Like, that's not what it's about. And I totally get that. It's just interesting now knowing what we know to be like, that's why some men were like that at the time. And progressively getting worse throughout their life. Yeah.
No, it's interesting for sure. I mean, I think that that's definitely like something to be said for that. I think the impetus and the core of LaMotta's issues were like internal and natural to him. But getting fucking punched in the face for a living definitely didn't help anything. Well, yeah. I can totally see how that would exacerbate the issues that were already innately.
And also, like, acting-wise and character-wise, I don't think it would matter anyway. Like, if you're playing, I don't think you're playing with somebody with CTE that you're gonna, like, you're still playing what you feel.
Well,
you know
yeah.
I mean? So I don't think it would matter anyway. It wouldn't change the performance or anything. It's just interesting thinking about it.
Yeah, performance-wise, I mean, like, story-wise, it, I think, shifts the ultimate, like, thesis on kind of, like, if you're, like, kind of shifting the identity of the issue, then it changes what the movie says. But, yeah, like, performance-wise, I don't see that would, like, cause
No, you're right, though.
Very
it
much
gives
vacillation.
Jake LaMotta an out. It's like, oh, maybe he's not being an asshole. Maybe he's got brain damage.
Yeah, but you can, but there's
which is
many
interesting.
I was going to say, but there's many football players and many people who've gone through the same kind of years of exposure to, you know, physical hits and things like that aren't, you know.
Aaron Hernandez killed like 3 people.
Yeah, that's a special case, yes, and
allegedly. No, I'm just kidding.
But what I'm saying is that, you know, it definitely
I grew up
doesn't.
a Patriots fan. I have to.
What was that?
I was just saying I grew up a Pats fan, so I have to like. But I don't.
Now,
I don't
are you
care.
a Tampa Bay fan now that Brady's with the Buccaneers?
Dude, I don't give a shit about football. I don't care. I don't think I've been to one football game, and it was a Giants. I want to say, does DC have a football team?
The Redskins.
Yeah.
I might have been a Giants Redskins game. I've been to exactly one football game in my entire life, and it was like because my friends wanted to go. I didn't care. So,
but what I'm so I want to bring up like the Italian culture though. I feel like also with
bada boom, bada bing, baby.
It's like.
I just gotta go Madonna.
It was odd that we never see his wife and kid again, right? Like the original.
Not really. I think it works for the character. I think it was like, fuck, you know, like that. It's just like he's like a voracious, like, I'm gonna take what I want and I'm gonna take it too much and then I'm gonna move on. Like he did that with like women. He did that with food. He did that with drink. He did that with like the belt, like the fighting.
Well, yeah, no, I mean,
so it made sense to me. Like, definitely, like, bad move on him. Like, it painted a very, like, clear picture of who that character was right away, for sure.
Well, you have to know that, like, I mean, he was a married man when he started dating or, you know, flirting with Vicky. You know, she was 15 years old. You know, he was, I think, in the time period, he was 21, technically. You know?
And that's what I wanted to say, actually, really quickly, because when they started talking about how she was 15, I was like, I know it was the 80s, but like, what the fuck? Because De Niro and Pesci are clearly 30, 40-year-old men, but they're playing these characters that are like,
well, okay, she's also 21, not 15,
right?
Well, no, but she definitely is. She definitely looks like way younger than them still.
Yes. Sure,
like you know, but I'm saying like. It's the same issue I had with The Irishman. Like these people who are like over 60 years old are not in their fucking 30s. Like you can't, there's no amount of makeup. So I didn't realize that they were supposed to be young also. Not that I'm saying 21 and 15 is like great, because it's not. It might have been different in the 80s. I don't fucking know.
But it was technically based in the 40s. So you have to think of it more of as the 40s. It was made in the 80s.
Yeah, no, that's true. And maybe in the fucking 40s, everybody was having sex with teenagers. I don't know.
He later gets arrested for, like, letting girls into his bar who are 14, and he totally nothing happens when he's banging a 15-year-old at the beginning of the movie? How does that make sense?
I think it's supposed to be like everything's catching up to him. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
all right, yeah, that's fair. That's a really good thematic point. All right, I'll take that.
but also I agree. Like, before I realized that they were also supposed to be young guys, like 2021, I was like, am I fucking losing my mind? It was just such like because like Joe Pesci's like, yeah, she's like 15. Where's she gonna go? And then he's like, you tried to fuck her? He's like, yeah, I tried to fuck her. You know, and it's like, ah.
Yeah,
but
that was weird.
It is. It's like, I don't know. It's the 40s. It's New York. Like, I understand that there aren't as rigid kind of lines to not be crossed as there are now. But it took me out of it for a second.
To like
that's all.
The thematics of Raging Bull and like the story arc, right? So, you know, I don't think Vicky would have been an option if it wasn't for the other guys hanging out with her. Like, I feel like Jake had this complex of like, oh, are people hanging out with her? Are people going on dates with her? Like, I have to have her. I have to win her. You know, and I think that can map through the movie he sees a goal in mind and he sees it objectively, right? He's like, you know, who knows how much he loves her. He loves boxing, obviously, more because he has to be told by his brother, hey, you know, take her out, show her some love. You know, it's, you know, you got to fix, she's not just going to happen, right? So I feel like his involvement with his reasoning for getting involved with Vicky has to do more with, she's gorgeous and she's pretty and she's a catch for sure. But because she's also hanging out with, Salvador, whoever not Tommy's the older guy, but yeah, Salvi, you know, and so, that to him is like, no, I'm going to beat him in another way, you know.
I would say it's equal parts of that, and I think, but I think her age is important. I think it's like, you know, because he's so insecure about his like manhood, that like, because she's so young and like mostly he's like, did you fuck her? And he's like, no. So he's like, okay, she's probably a virgin. Like, I can, you know, I don't have to worry about. Yeah, competition, I would say, is like a huge part of it for sure. You're right,
and
Josh.
then it's that thing where like when he first gets with her at the beginning of the movie, and this is, you know, a major part of the arc. He's with her and he's a boxer and he's on the up, and obviously who he is and his, you know, insecurities are all tied into boxing, and as that keeps going, you see him get crazier and crazier as it doesn't work, you know, as he's worried about losing her more and more, as he's losing who he is himself as a boxer, because he's only tied to that. So as that starts to get shittier, he starts to lose her and freak out, and it just rolls and rolls and rolls, and it's just a crazy mess.
But I think what's interesting is that he was, honestly, if you look at it, he wasn't gonna lose her. Like, she was she was his wife, she was doing her, you know, she was faithful to him, you know, and back in the day, obviously, you know, women were seen as housewives or whatever. Like that moment in the kitchen where Joe Pesci's character's like, what do you know? Stop asking questions, you know, take the kid, go in the other room, let us talk business. You know, that kind of made me feel disgusting because that culture was so prevalent. I'm just like, oh God, I'm so sorry, ladies. Like, I just forgive us. I'm going to apologize for the male.
4 women listening to this. Know. Like, we're sorry.
But it's kind of this, you know, she was faithful to him. She had no harm, no foul. Even at the club when they went out that night, she just said hi to friends.
Yeah.
And yet he's like,
drink,
who were you talking to? What was that about? What? And she's like, nothing. I was just, you know, saying hi. It's overpossessive.
He's self-destructive. It's self-destructive behavior. Like, he can't fathom, because he has so little trust in anyone else. He can't like imagine people like being like saying what they mean and being true to their word and like being faithful. His own brother, he beats the shit out of him. You know what I mean? Because of shit he made up in his head. It's insane. It's a very, in my opinion, well done portrayal of that mindset. Like, De Niro did a really good job, and the film and the cinematography too.
Definitely,
the cinematography was beautiful. And actually, if we can segue from that, I wanted to talk about the boxing scenes. So
please,
I grew up boxing. For the audience who doesn't know, I grew up boxing. I love boxing movies, obviously, all kinds of fight movies. I've seen all of them. I'd never seen Raging Bull before, so watching it, I was saying this to Josh earlier before we started the podcast. I wish I'd seen it as a kid, because I would have had a very different perspective on specifically the boxing fighting scenes, right? Forgetting about the timing of it, and when they were made, I was watching yesterday being like, well, I just watched Creed 2 the other day, and this doesn't really hold up. But then, when you put it in the perspective of it's along the same time as, Rocky and shit, you're like, this is amazingly well done. So it's just perspective with the fighting in the rings.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring up Rocky because I feel like this film is such an antithesis to that movie. Like, in terms of tone, it almost doesn't feel like I wouldn't call Raging Bull a boxing movie.
No, either would I.
I would call it a drama about a psychosexual drama about a boxer.
Sure, I would do that. Yeah.
Somebody who happens to be a boxer. That being said, the fight scenes are like superbly well choreographed. I love the way that the camera's in the ring. I love the fight choreography. I love the technical aspects of it. They're all great.
You even love the slow-mo spitting out of the saliva spitting out, the blood spurting out of the eyebrow. Like, that was all. I loved it. I giggled.
Yeah. But here's the choice that I loved with that. They didn't use the fight scenes like in every other fight movie I've ever watched to stir up more drama or make those the main parts of the movie, that's what everything is hit, those are all your critical points. In this, it was the in-betweens and showed the changes of him from one point in life to another. The fights were moments that were showing changes, which is why there was never any real times in a fight where you were like, oh my god, is he going to win? Is he going to lose? It was very blatant. He's either coming out and beating the shit out of the guy or he's out there getting the shit kicked out of him.
Or he's going to be wrongly accused of or he's not going to win because of a technicality. You know what I mean?
Right, but we know that going into it. Like, we know he's going to throw the fight. You know what I mean? So it's like these moments of what's happening in the ring reflecting what's happening in his life. And not using those fights as these giant, battles and drama points. Or like, you watch whatever, Rocky or Creed or whatever, the last fight's 20 minutes. You know what I mean? And it's what you want to see, and that's the main part of the movie, and that's that.
Yeah. The fight scenes in Raging Bull took up, I think, like less than 10 minutes, 15 minutes maximum, which is insane. And I agree. And in those other movies, Brandon, I agree with you that like the scenes that are not in the boxing ring are very utilitarian. It's like, we got to just get to the next fight, and that's what people want to see. But it's the opposite here, where it's like exactly what you were saying. The fight scenes we're watching are a reflection of what's been going on with his character in his life outside, which is the meat of the story. And in my opinion, thematically, it's more interesting because it's the character stuff. But like Scorsese was like, but we got to make the boxing look cool,
right?
And they did. I love the biggest thing to me. I think, Josh, there are a couple times. So because they filmed it in black and white and they wanted very high contrast for the fake blood, I don't know if you guys read this. They used Hershey's, like chocolate syrup.
Oh, really? No, I did not read this. No.
And there's a couple scenes where, like, in close up, it like looks like fake and shit.
For the record,
but
all the fake blood that we used on Birdsong was made out of Hershey's. Yeah, it was like chocolate syrup too. So that's like a real thing. We do that.
Because it's the consistency.
No.
They have the consistency of blood, but
consistency and like the color contrast. But that being said, overall, the choice to have the camera in the ring and not like over the, I don't know what you call them, the
ropes,
the lines, the ropes. That was like very new, and that hadn't really been done before in cinema. And it's kind of like, it's like very fluid. Every shot is like framed perfectly. But my favorite aspect of it is the sound design. There's like these like these animalistic raw like rumbles and growling, and it just really like informs his mindset and his attitude and his character. And I think that all of that was really, really well done. I was very impressed. I would love, it's 40 fucking years old. Yeah, dude. That's insane.
Well, and even with like it's the steam coming off the ring. It's this world, and they have the audience, but it's like, it's usually if they're in the ring, it's, black in the background, and then you got those spotlights, right? I loved seeing the different, like, almost arena lights on. I would love to just real quick talk about the juxtaposition of the color, the montage of his fights, and the color of like good things happening. And I love what Scorsese did with the only bit of color was, him getting married, his brother getting married. It's this raising this happy time in Jake's life, mixed with the still shots. Some still shots, I think they started moving a little bit towards the end, of black and white in the boxing ring, like him winning fight after fight after fight, and this kind of builds. to be broken down the rest of the movie. So I thought that was a really cool, interesting way to use color in movie, because when it was black and white, I'm like, there's always that moment of, wait, this came out in 1980. There was definitely color, right?
Yeah.
For us youngins, but it was a choice. It was a choice for him for the period to bring out the period of it all.
It's a very deliberate choice, I think, to reflect the time period that the story takes place in, but then also, I think, to choose to have that specific moment in color to kind of illustrate this sort of falseness in those happy moments, like, compared to the rest of his life. You know what I mean? Like, having, like, looking through, like, that little happy montage with, like, through rose-colored glasses.
Sure, yeah.
While still knowing that, like, this guy, the movie's called Raging Bull. He's a fucking animal. He's a beast. And it's like, you're just waiting for all that shit to, like, come out. And, like, the black and white scenes, which is the majority of the movie, it's like, this is the real man that we're watching,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you, sorry, go ahead, Brandon. I'm just trying to...
No, I was just going to say, it was intense. Obviously, as I'm sure you guys know, during the filming, they had to take, whatever, a month off, 6 weeks off, so we could put on all that weight.
It took 4 months for him to gain 60 pounds. That's I read, because I looked it up. I was like, because it almost looked like a
4 months?
4 months to gain 60 pounds.
I gained 60 pounds in 60 days, easy, no problem.
Wow.
Not a problem.
Well, but he was like in peak physical condition before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had to not only stop exercising and to lose all that muscle mass. He said he was drinking milkshakes, dude.
Dude, I don't know, man.
Just like melting them down and fucking chugging them.
He's very cut down. Like, I don't know how tall
he's 5'10".
he is. Okay, so then we're like the same size.
All of these things I looked up because there were moments with Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro. I'm like, how much taller is... Like, are they trying to make Robert De Niro drop 5'4"?
Really?
He's like 5'4", 5'5". Yeah. So like the moment when it's raining and they're in like the indoor pool or whatever, because I'm like thinking, going, Robert De Niro can't be that much taller than Joe Pesci, but it's a few inches. It's definitely 4 or 5 inches between the two.
Well, also they might have shot.
It's like the difference between Brandon and I. It's like the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe give or take an inch, but and like, so you see us standing next to each other and it's like, it's not that bad. But then like when you have like the camera with the forced perspective, you can frame your shit. You know what I mean?
Who knows how
I also feel like they very deliberately framed it in ways that like De Niro, like Jake would physically impose himself over other characters.
But gaining weight like that, like that's something that I almost thought it was a different actor, because they sandwiched the movie, right, with Jake, present day Jake or whatever, doing the monologue, which I thought those monologues were actually awesome to watch.
Reciting Brando's speech from On the Waterfront, which like thematically is like so many layers. I think it's such an interesting way to open that movie. I didn't recognize.
No, I thought it was a different actor, to be honest.
I was like, what?
Also, let's talk about that for a minute, okay? Just from an acting perspective, you have De Niro at the end of the movie reciting Brando's speech from On the Waterfront. I'm sure a speech that De Niro had done plenty of times for real and murdered it, and then you have to do it as Jake LaMotta, not doing it great. Like, oh, I love the layers of it. I love it. That has to be one of the most fun moments to work on.
But also the fact that it's Brando's speech. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, as like a fat, overweight, like has been, it's just like very interesting and very bold. There's a lot going on under the hood of this film.
It's pairing the like entertainment, right? Like that's entertainment. Like what is acting? What is entertainment? What is performance? What's just an MC like at a club that you're just trying to like figure out what a sexy girl sounds like on a microphone, to an actor like in a movie and stuff, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I had just watched Godfather 2 on Sunday, and De Niro looks identical, like just like body wise and all that, but it's just such two different performances. It's amazing, Yeah. When he's
identical to how he looks here in Raging Bull.
It can only be like a few years apart, but like he's that small at the beginning in Godfather
I feel, yeah, because this came out in 80. I feel like part 2, 82 or
Right,
84.
so it can't be that far
like,
apart. Actually, so he must have lost the weight
Yeah.
again after this. But he,
Yeah.
but he looks, he's that small. He's that like cut, like he's it's a small guy. But he looks the exact same. But the performances are just the complete opposite. Obviously, it's Don Corleone.
Yeah.
He's very measured, very cold, very not very talkative. And then this, you're a fucking bull.
Well, I appreciate-
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing with, De Niro, the ability to do such incredible, you have like Raging Bull, and then you have Godfather Part 2, and then you have Bad Grandpa, these like insane, like disparate, but equally powerful performances, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did enjoy that movie.
Which one? Bad Grandpa?
Yeah, it's funny.
It's good,
fun.
yeah. But with the weight gain, right? Like it's slightly unhealthy with gaining. Like you took the 4 months to gain the 60 pounds, but like, nowadays people just put a fat suit on you, or like they have the prosthetics and the makeup to look.
Not if you're Christian Bale.
No, that's true. I guess there are still some actors out there.
Some people are still doing it.
It also depends, right? Because you can put a fat
Yeah, it
suit
depends on what
but you can't put a
Well, there's a difference between like
skinny suit on.
Fat Thor and the DC what's his face in the Fox, the Bombshell, the guy who played
oh my god, the guy from Third Rock.
What?
Yeah.
on the Sun. Oh my god, I'm blanking.
Wow, we're terrible.
I know, I'm the worst.
Wait, what? Who?
The-
And what are we talking
Caleb,
about?
I'm talking
the guy
about
in
the-
Third Rock from the Sun. He's awesome. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
No.
The main guy.
Wait, what about Bombshell?
No, I'm talking
What are you
about
what's
like
Bombshell?
makeup, prosthetics, right? So you have
Yeah,
Fat
but like,
Thor.
who? Are you talking about John Lithgow?
Yes.
So the
Okay, sorry. I haven't.
Yeah, thank you. No.
I'm so lost.
we were
in what we're
blanking,
talking
but
about.
my comparison is gaining weight.
Did he gain mad weight for Bombshell?
No, it was all makeup.
prosthetics.
That's what I was saying about like the difference between Fat Thor, where it's obviously this like super like fake belly, to Bombshell, which won an Academy Award for makeup, hair and makeup, to then actually gaining the weight. So it's like the different looks, right? So nowadays you can actually have a very good prosthetic that makes you gain all that weight, or you can spend 4 months eating milkshakes or drinking milkshakes and be it.
I don't want to go on like a too long of a tangent, but do you guys know my favorite Hollywood weight gain story of all time is definitely, do you guys know about Ryan Gosling and the Lovely Bones?
Yeah.
No.
He got fired because he showed up 60 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
He made
So,
a choice, and
have
he
you ever
went with it?
have you ever seen The Lovely Bones, Josh?
No.
It's not a very good film. But basically, it's Peter Jackson made this movie, and Ryan Gosling was cast as like the father of Saoirse Ronan's character who like goes missing. And Ryan Gosling, exactly what Brandon said, he made the choice. He read the script. He was like, "Oh, this guy like probably looks really terrible. He's like really sad, fat, and overweight." So he showed up the first day of shooting, having gained 60 pounds. And Peter Jackson is like, "What? You look fucking awful." And he goes like, "Yeah, I know. Isn't it awesome?" And he's like, "No."
Oh, no.
So
We hired you,
And then,
Ryan
like-
Gosling.
yeah. And then like, there's different accounts of like what happened. Ryan Gosling says basically Peter Jackson was like, you can either like start hitting the treadmill right fucking now, or like you gotta go. And he was like, yeah, I mean, I can't lose 60 pounds in like a week,
Yeah.
but he always goes in the video that I've seen, he goes like, and then I was fat and unemployed and it sucked. But he's clearly clearly
Yeah,
fine.
he's good.
called Marky Mark.
Yeah,
got
which,
him
and
there. The
he's
Jactist.
but anyway, that's my favorite
Yeah.
Hollywood weight gain story.
Other than, the best one's got to be Mac from It's Always Sunny, like Rob McElhenney deciding he's going to get obese for the character just for fun, and then gets
I mean,
puts on
yeah, that's kind of a different
120 pounds
thing.
for the season or some shit, and then comes back the next season absolutely ripped up.
Well, that happens when you have money
Yeah.
and you can have a nutritionist and like a coach.
So
Like
you
for
gotta-
me, it's
you got to see his post about it. He's the funniest about it ever. He's like,
Oh, sure, like-
he's saying exactly that, being like, yeah, it's super easy when you have Disney paying for everything, and it's
yeah, no, that's the thing
Yeah,
about people
him and,
getting jealous about like Hugh Jackman or like Chris Hemsworth, or people like just getting fucking ripped and being superhero bodies, when it's like dude, when you have 2 months with a nutritionist and with a gym trainer, like, and you don't have to worry about going to work or not having a routine or like getting caught with something, then yeah, of course, fuck, you know.
I really liked Kumail Nanjiani's posts about it. I don't know if you guys read those.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
because he got cut up for the Marvel shit that he's doing. He looks great, and he posted his like vanity pics. He was like, "Yeah, I'm like shredded now," which I would too, like totally. But then he was like, "To be clear, this is a very specific workout routine. I have like a very specific diet. Everything's provided for me by the Disney Marvel people. Like, do not like this is not normal. This is not something that people should like worry about not being able to achieve. It's all like very complex. I'm airbrushed to shit." Like he was very honest about everything. And
in that article, in the interview, he went on to talk about his own like body dysmorphia, given all this, and as he started to gain muscle and gain weight and watch the scale go up, he started freaking out and having crazy anxiety because obviously in that position you're trying to go for a certain look. And reading that during that exact time, I was going through my own pretty significant shit with that type of stuff. So it was really nice to see that and be like, okay, all right, this all makes perfect sense. I'm feeling the exact same way because I was like 100 fucking 30 pounds or whatever, and look, you know, whatever. Like I'm 160 pounds right now, and I look the same. Which is fucked up.
You were very you were like insanely underweight.
Hey man,
but I want to say
dystopian play.
No, like I mean, I'm not criticizing you. It's just like
it had nothing to do with that. So
there was like a moment. I feel like whatever. I'm just glad that you're all right now. That's all.
I'm fine.
There was like a moment. There was a moment we were all going to the movies one night, and it was just like really windy. And I was like, Brandon might blow away. I'm like, should we like tether him to? But you look good now, buddy. You look sexy now, baby.
I was just miscalculating. You know, that's how my own body is more.
Yeah, of course. Like, well, you kind of go to the extreme, and then you kind of
I'm not
find your way back. You know.
Pardon?
No, I'm just saying, like, you kind of go to the extreme and then you kind of find your way back because, you know, it's for me, like, a lot of the time, especially in quarantine now, it's like I'm getting used to just kind of relaxing and just, you know, people who don't know this, I work at a gay sports bar in New York City.
Yeah.
One of my first 3 years working at a bar were shirtless bartenders where they only hired people who were, you know, muscular, thin, toned, whatever. And I did bartend for a little bit there because I needed somebody, and the regulars loved it because I wasn't the normal type. You know, I have a little bit softness around my midsection, but then I was told I couldn't bartend, you know, because of my look. And the manager brought me in. I've been working there for 2.5 years. They're like, "Hey, listen, we can't have you behind the bar anymore. I'm sorry." I was like, "Yeah, no, I get it." You know, because I know the owners, I knew how they ran the bar. I'm like, yeah, I was working on borrowed time anyway. That really messed me up. So now for me, it's like I always suck in my gut. And it's been a big thing this like over quarantine of just relaxing, just like being myself and knowing that if I did work out, because I was a football player, you know, a thrower in track and field, you know, like I can do the workouts and my body can change very drastically, but I've never had the need to like take supplements or do things that'll like super, like what Caleb was saying, change my body to like an unnatural kind of tone. Like I'm always going to have this natural Midwest kind of corn-fed build. And so it's like it takes a lot to get used to that, you know.
You have a big frame too. Like you're what, 6'3"? How tall are you? 6'4"? Like
6 foot. I'm just 6 foot.
Wait, but like you know what I mean? Like if you started doing steroids, you're gonna explode. Like you're gonna be huge. You get like Rock. That's not what you want.
Yeah, definitely. But it's all about, you know, body image and like being comfortable with yourself and like out there, you know, that's a big thing in the gay community and males, females, like everybody sees these pictures of like, oh man, how cool would I look if I was like that? But then how happy are you, you know? And so
that's and
like if you're a boxer, what's that?
Sorry, I was gonna say like everybody wants something different from you, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like as an actor, like you have to be flexible with, I guess, everything, but you know, first and foremost, be your, you know, authentic self and your body type and just go for those. Like, I'm never going to go into the same characters as you, Brandon, in terms of athletic, like, you know, you're more of a boxer. I could play a boxer, just, I would be heavyweight, right? Or I would be like a different,
and I'd be like fucking, you know, whatever, 150.
But I feel that like being a boxer and like Jake LaMotta and stuff like that, bringing it back to the movie, is that you do get a natural toneness, a natural cutness to your body, just because you're working out every day. You're in the gym, you're in the ring, you're burning all these calories. Like, you naturally lose that weight and build. Like, when I was, when I first moved to the city, I lost 35 pounds, and I was the skinniest I've ever been since high school, because I ended up not having home cooked meals. I was eating bodega food, and I was bar backing at Boxers, going up and down stairs for 8 to 12 hours a day for 5 days a week.
And
So naturally I lost that weight.
In New York anyway.
And you're walking everywhere. It's so yeah. I mean, I'm very happy right now with how I am. I'm very comfortable. So, not to say I don't want to keep exercising and be healthy, but there's a difference. I'm just going to say.
You guys are both gorgeous. All right, don't let anyone tell you
thanks,
differently.
Caleb.
You guys are both beautiful.
No, it's interesting though, because it's it's all about types and that type of shit, and then just kind of realize at one point that, like, yes, it is about types, but also those types are going to change based on you. You gotta stick with your own self and whatever that is. So
just be true to yourself. Be the best you can be. All right.
Well, thanks, Jiminy Cricket.
I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the whole interview with Robert Pattinson. We were just talking about working out for Batman, and they were like, "Are you like staying in shape?" No. He's like, "No, I haven't done anything. I refuse." And everybody's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "No, I think it's," and this is like, it's his own personal perspective. I don't know that I necessarily agree with a role like that, a character like that. Only because what would Batman be doing? Working out every day, for sure. Like, I've read enough Batman comics to know that that's part of it. He's not superpowered.
Do you mean? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but just like, you're saying that, like, while it's on hold, he's not maintaining. Yes, he's not working out.
So there was an article that came out with him. He did his own photos for like GQ this week or whatever, and they did a whole interview. And I'm incredibly stoked for him to be playing Batman. I think he's gonna be amazing. I guess he had worked out a bunch before, which is totally fair. You just got to do Batman stuff. But then with the quarantine, he put out a thing being like, "No, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm not working out. My personal trainer keeps calling me," and he's like, "No, we're in quarantine." And I think that's part of the problem right now, is for people like me to be, working out and being focused on that, as opposed to just, living life. And he goes on to talk about how, like, actors didn't used to be like this. James Dean didn't have a six-pack. He just acted. Which is, I understand that. But at the same time, it's like it's like anything else. People get better and better and get more and more dedicated to what they're doing. Like, hockey players didn't used to be super crazy jacked, and like, they used to smoke cigarettes between the periods. You know what I mean? But everybody got better, so competition gets stronger.
We got to bring tobacco back to hockey.
Hey, it cures it helps you against coronavirus, so that's what I've been told.
Here's the thing, though. It's like, if you're the guy and you're in that position, you kind of get to do whatever you want. Like, he's Batman right now, so he gets to make that call.
Sure, but like, I
would be interested. I don't know. I think like having skinny legend Batman would be interesting, because here's the thing with, like, I know it's Batman, I know it's a superhero movie, so we're not supposed to put too much thought into it. But like, you see these guys who have played Bruce Wayne that are all like jacked as shit, and like, I know they're wearing like suits and shit, but you can like totally tell. And I feel like having a more leaner, like less obvious, who's the only person who could afford to do this shit? Oh, it's Bruce Wayne, and he's jacked as shit. Like, if he was just like a kind of like reserved, like gaunt, like, I don't know, it could be interesting to see him more.
That is a very big thing in the comics that comes up all the time, that his suits are purposefully tailored to like be bigger on him and things like that, so he doesn't look super. Like, that's a whole, obviously over 90 years of comics, like, they've touched on this type of thing, but that's a whole thing. All the suits are supposed to be tailored to make them look baggy and shit on him, so nobody can tell that he's jacked and like all this shit.
I just love, it's like, watching Christian Bale like be Bruce Wayne, it's like, you're so obviously Batman.
Right.
You're such a badass. Why are you?
Like, but I don't know. So, but I hear what you're saying for sure. It's interesting. I don't know what I would do in that position.
It was more interesting that he put it out there. He didn't have to say anything about it either way. He's not a big guy. Like, he's never been overweight. So unless he has his shirt off, you're not going to know anyway. He didn't have to say anything about it. So it's just an interesting thing to put out there, because he's not wrong.
But no, I mean, quarantine is a time like for taking care of yourself, because everyone's going through these mental gymnastics, of like, depression and anxiety and things like that. But I guess I would like to know that if when filming starts jumping back in again or whatever, like, he obviously will go back to the gym, and once he goes back to work, he'll go back to work.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, now it'd be different if like the director's like, hey, make sure you don't, gain 50 pounds because that's going to be harder to work off and get back into filming. But,
I mean, I don't think he'll because of what his natural body's always been. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think just like lack of muscle definition probably.
And he did say like he is eating right and he's sticking to his diet and all that. He's just not lifting and stuff. Whatever, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I can see if that wasn't a part of his routine already, he's not going to jump at the chance to go back into it.
It's like, and again, like you said, like he's always kind of looked the same. He looks. It's just he does what he does. I think it's gonna be a good Batman, man. I'm excited for it.
I think it'd be great.
Excited.
It's so interesting. I'm excited for it. It's got a good cast for sure, and Matt Reeves is like very visually like an interesting director.
I think I'm most excited to see Paul Dano as the Riddler. I think that's gonna be really interesting.
Yeah, he's a very underrated actor. I think he's underutilized. Everything that I've seen him in, he's done at least a good job, if not a great job.
Speaking of doing a good job in movies, Robert De Niro, I felt.
Yeah, remember Raging Bull? Sorry, all right. So actually,
yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, Josh, but we've like spent a lot of time talking about the movie and how great it is and all the good parts of it. If you guys have more to say, like I do want to hear it, but I also want to talk about like there were some things that I think were like not so effective for me.
Sure, please.
So overall, and this is also an opinion that was informed by kind of doing more research into the character and the backstory of production and everything. So there was some guy wrote the first treatment of the script and then he didn't work on it anymore. And they hired Paul Schrader, and who is credited on the film as the screenwriter, to do like a rewrite. And the basis of the film that we saw is based off of his draft, which, if you can believe it, made LaMotta even more unlikable and like was even more horrible than he is on screen. De Niro and Scorsese did an uncredited rewrite, or maybe they are. I don't think they're credited though. Where they worked on making him more of a likable character. Because they, with the Bible verse at the end and everything, they wanted to kind of give him a sort of like the ending to be sort of redemptive, which I agree with Paul Schrader's take when he was asked about it, when he said that like, it's fine to tackle the character in that way, but I don't think they reached that conclusion in the text of the film. I don't think LaMotta earned any sort of redemption based on anything. Like, it's one thing to like feel bad and to recognize you fucked up, but like, we don't see him like make amends to anybody. We don't see him change his behavior. We don't see his goals really change at all, especially at the end with the like, shadowboxing, like, I'm the boss. Like, I think like we didn't get the rise, which was interesting because we started pretty much in the middle of his career. We got like pretty much straight downfall. And I think that's interesting, but I do agree that I don't think that LaMotta as a character really earned. I can empathize and sympathize to a degree, but I don't believe that he redeemed himself at all. I don't know what you guys think.
No. Yeah. No. I don't think. I mean, even let's take it back to like this movie just came out in 1980. He's the guy still alive. People probably have read his book, who are fans of boxing and know his name. I mean, do we need a redemption story? Like, the main character, like, cool, it needs to be likable, I guess, a little bit, but I don't, like, if that's his character, or like that, if that's the person.
I'm not saying that it needs to be at all. Yeah. I'm saying that if the filmmakers, that's what their goal was, it didn't work.
Oh, yeah. No. It definitely wasn't there.
I mean, was that their goal, or were they just trying to make him more likable? You know what I mean?
Well, first of all, if they were trying to make him more likable, De Niro is a charismatic performer.
That's what I'm saying, though, right?
I didn't like that character. I don't like Jake LaMotta as a human being.
How much would you
performance is great.
Hated the character if De Niro turned off that charisma at all? Right? You know what I'm saying?
But I'm saying that like
that character.
LaMotta being a charismatic person is part of why he's able to do the things he does. He gets away with abusing his family and his loved ones because he has that veneer of likability. But then you get into his head and his mind, and he's actually a paranoid psychopath. And I think that's a big thing that went unaddressed. And I do think that putting that Bible verse at the end and the general tone of the last like 15 minutes, it kind of seems like Scorsese is like positioning him to be, and in their commentary, they talk about how they wanted him to kind of start like, if not to be fully like rised up from the ashes or whatever, to kind of be like a reborn sort of person. It's like, no, he has changed, but I didn't see that at all. I didn't read it that way. I felt the
change a little bit in just before the last scene when he's on stage, and he's at the smaller bar and he's emceeing for whatever girl comes out to dance. And just the way he's speaking, the way he's going about it, you know, we have this Jake LaMotta before that doesn't talk to anybody, you know, doesn't say hi to anybody, doesn't want to whatever. Now he's free. He's on stage, he's talkative, he's making fun of people, he's talking to the crowd, you know, he's staying up on stage. So I think that's a little bit where we're supposed to get it from. It didn't land very hard for me, you know, but I felt that the character was different.
Yeah, if you deep like analyze it, you can pick out those moments, like especially because that's the moment after he essentially gets like blackmailed into $10,000. He comes back and he like takes apart the belt, you know, even though he's like taking apart his belt, the dishes fall, and then he yells at his ex-wife. You know,
yeah,
he goes back into his own
douche.
thing.
He's a scumbag.
But yeah, there's definitely a moment there's a look on De Niro that you can definitely see that, okay, is he like remorseful, whatever, but I don't think having a 2-hour movie in the last 3 minutes, you can get that full, like, oh, you know what? I forget this guy. I feel bad. You know, it's not.
Yeah, I agree with you, Josh. I wasn't. It's hard. It's hard. I think that it's interesting to position an audience. It's like with BoJack Horseman, right? Like, spoilers for that show, I guess. But you spend so much time with this character that you're forced to identify with. The performance is very charismatic. He's a likable guy. Like, he makes a lot of mistakes, but you forgive him because you are getting his perspective, right? So at the end, when everything comes crashing down and he's forced to recognize his faults and come to terms with the terrible things he's done, you're conflicted because it's like, yeah, like I understand, and yeah, you should be forced to reckon with that, but also I know you and I like you because I spent so much time with you. And I think maybe that's like the difference between 6 years of a TV show and a 2-hour movie.
And also the fact, though, that's the best I've ever seen anybody do that. In BoJack Horseman, they do such a masterful job at that. I've never seen anything like that when talking specifically about what you're talking about. They draw you in so well.
Yeah, and that's another
consistently every season be throwing these BoJack issues at you. It's not like at the end of the 6th season, that's the first time that we felt that too. They've hit you with that every season of like, yeah, you love BoJack, but look what he did now.
But it was definitely like next level shit at the end. I mean, that final season was incredible.
Well, there's another moment in the movie, Caleb, that I also think that, like, you know, the fight, right? The fight that he throws, you know, for the mafia, or, you know, to kind of show the audience that he was bought, or that he is influenced by the mafioso. And, you know, he does end up weeping into his brother's arms, you know, because because he threw a fight. He hates losing, but he'd made that choice.
But that's what it was to me. Like, it wasn't weeping. Like, when he's like, what have I done? He's not remorseful for his actions.
Yeah.
He's upset that he lost a fight. And that's the difference. No. And I generally agree with what you're saying.
No, but I'm saying it's another moment. Like, I think maybe the filmmakers tried to like bring out more of the likable, you know, empathetic.
That's
kind
definitely
of
what they tried to do.
But did it land? I don't know.
That scene landed for me because before that, the whole thing is about he hasn't gotten a title shot yet because he won't play ball. Right? He won't take a dive. He doesn't want to play ball with the mafia or whatever. So then they finally convince him to. Pesci finally convinces him to, so that he can, you know, get his actual title shot. And he's in there and he hits the guy at the beginning, and the guy's like about to go down, so he's got to hold him up the whole time. So I think after that it wasn't just like, oh, I lost. It's like, oh, what have I that's his one. Up until that point, that seemed to be his one line, his like real line of his humanity. And a step over that's when we start to see him just completely lose himself.
Sure. Yeah.
The line being what?
Throwing the fight.
Right, but I'm saying, so what you're arguing that
it's not losing that fucked him up. He's lost before. Like, we see him lose to Sugar Ray Leonard before that, and in that he's already lost to him once at the beginning. Like, Jake LaMotta's lost before at that point. It's the fact that he threw the fight to some bum that he should have, you know,
should have knocked out in the first round. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, so losing, I meant I didn't mean by saying that I meant the differences between like, you know, it's still a result of him being upset about making a lack of progress in his ultimate goal, which is the title shot to be the best fighter. But like, he's not coming to terms with like anything to do with his interpersonal relationships or his growth as a human being. He's just so laser focused on this one thing that like, even when he's losing everybody in his life and his morals and his ideals, it all just falls onto the wayside. And the only thing he cares about is like a belt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think going into that, I think with him breaking down after that scene, the whole idea is that, yes, all he wants is this belt, but not that way. And to give up your morals is what we see finally break him and put him down that, you know, just get worse and worse path. Like that's what I'm saying. I think, yes, it is the ultimate pursuit for a belt, but he's been trying to do it the whole time without doing this. So to finally do
it's like it's like selling his soul to the devil.
Yeah, exactly. It's the final nail in the coffin of who this man is going to be. And this is kind of the last shot of him going a different way with it.
Because he wanted it outright.
Yeah,
he wanted to be the best boxer outright.
Yeah,
he didn't want to have to.
That's my perception of it.
No, it's interesting. Maybe if I were to watch it again with that, you know, it's a good point for sure.
It's mostly just because of what he's saying, because he's just yelling like, "What have I done? What have I done? What have I done?" And then they go, like, "How could you didn't go down?" He's like, "Well, I'm never going to go down. I'm not going down." So the fact, like, he didn't.
So stubborn.
Well, that's the thing. He wouldn't even cross the line of taking a dive, right? He made it go all I think it's 13 rounds back then, as opposed to 12, which is crazy, or 15 rounds. I don't even know. But he goes the entirety of the rounds as opposed to even going down, right? Which is why he gets suspended.
Right. Well, and he makes his last kind of statement to Sugar Ray was like, he lost to Sugar Ray, but he's like, "Hey, Sugar Ray, I never got knocked down."
Right.
You know, that's like the ultimate trophy for a boxer, right? Not being knocked off your feet. And so for him, he lost the fight, but he never got knocked down. Like that Sugar Ray only won on technicalities.
Also, that dude did not look like Sugar Ray, and it was bumming me out.
I do think that like the fact that we are talking, I mean, like that this is all that he's focused. It is all he's focused about, and he is in denial about the damage that he's causing to the people around him and himself.
I don't even think he's aware of it at all.
And I think that was like probably my ultimate, like where I was going with my point. But I totally see in that specific moment, Brandon, I see what you're saying, and I think I agree with you.
But I agree. Like, I don't think he realizes anything that he's doing to anyone around him until like the end of the movie, when it's way too late.
Which is like a great way to tackle that character, and I think the correct way to tackle that character. But I just feel like they didn't stick the landing in terms of like if they wanted to have him kind of turn around and be like, "Oh no," like, you know, that I didn't see that at all.
You could have had him go see his kids at the end, something like that. You know what I mean? Just anything,
or like anything.
But there's something beautiful about that, you know. There's something beautiful about that. He didn't get that at the end. Like, I don't know. Maybe that would have felt cheap after everything.
I would have preferred they go one way or the other with it, is what I'm saying. It feels muddied to me. Like, I don't think that they earned what they were going for.
Now,
but that's a minor thing.
Did De Niro win for this? I think he did, right? He won Best Actor? It definitely won Best Picture.
I don't know.
Right?
Raging Bull Oscars. Shit, I should have looked this up before. Yes, he did. So, no, it did not win Best Picture. De Niro won Best Actor, and it won Best Film Editing as well, which I would agree with. It was edited insanely
especially
well.
At the time.
Shall we do final thoughts and ratings? Are you guys ready for that, or how are we feeling?
Yeah, ready.
You guys go first.
That's all. I have nothing else on the movie, but
do I have anything?
Because we didn't really do general thoughts at the beginning, so I'm going to do. You know,
yeah, we just dove right in.
I thought it was great. I'm getting used to more and more watching these kind of classic movies, which is awesome. You know, appreciating them. You know, I give it I'll give it a 4 out of 5 boxing gloves.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a 4 as well.
Yeah, I watched this. I mean, at this point, it's been a while. Yeah, I ended up giving it a 4 as well. I think like there's so much to love it, and we had a great conversation. You know, we could keep talking longer for sure. There is so much to appreciate about it, but I didn't feel like a real like emotional connection to what was happening. And I'm not saying that a film needs that to be good or great or whatever. I think it is a great movie. But yeah, I feel like pretty comfortable with like a 4 out of 5. It's definitely something that is worth watching. But it's 40 years old.
It was,
and
I have a better perspective on it now after we've talked about it.
Yeah, maybe a second watch would yield different results for sure. But I definitely felt like that was a really, really solid 4 out of 5.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's funny. I think this is the first time we've all agreed.
Given the same one,
definitely.
This is just as good as House and Miracle, according to.
it's definitely just as good as Miracle.
According to the 3MFAers rating system.
So, Josh,
yes,
what are we watching for next time?
I'm very excited about this because I've actually wanted to watch it, but I just never on the radar. But The Shawshank Redemption.
Okay.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
I've never seen it. I'm sure you guys have.
The best movie of all time?
It's always... What?
The best movie of all time? The Shank?
I don't know.
Yeah.
The Shank. I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen that movie a couple times. All right, so I'm interested. Yeah,
That's gonna be a good one.
I'm excited.
It might be the best movie. Period.
No, objectively, Citizen Kane is still the best movie apparently, but we'll have to hit Citizen Kane at some point.
I think.
I don't know, guys. Did you guys end up? Did you guys end up seeing Trolls World Tour? Because that shit was fire. Well, this was a nice long one. Thank you guys for chatting with me about it, and thank you guys for listening. That was 3 Mfers
on Raging Bull.
On Raging Bull.